libraries are where you immediately belong. You step in the door, you don't have to buy anything, you don't have to prove anything, you just belong. And so when you are contributing money to a library, you are keeping those doors open and you're allowing for that access to happen, especially at a time like this when we see access closing to books. So when you're contributing to libraries, it is really an active revolution nowadays. So thank you for keeping those doors open. I mean, you don't know what kid is gonna, walk through the doors and is quietly building a future.
Tonight is a conversation with Stacey Lee. This is a lot of hard work. This is the first time she's seeing her book published. We have books for sale, and I have to tell you, Stacey has told me that she has a special stamp that she brings when she autographs each book. So please get your copy. She not only will autograph it, she will tell us more. Unbelievable. She and her friends have made book covers for all of you tonight when you purchase her book. This is an idea, but she has different fabrics, and she said it was, I guess, a passion project during COVID, right? So wonderful. I hope you will. Again, the table is out across from the circulation desk under the archway, and Stacey will be signing. As I said, she grew up in Whittier, coming to the Whittier Public Library. We told her we love always hearing how coming to the library influenced or informed her life, from the Whittier Stacks to the New York Times, how an author found her voice. So please help me welcome Stacey Lee. She will be joined by Mike Urabedian, as I said, our past president.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. This room has the ghosts of my childhood in it. This room is
Friendly ghosts.
Friendly ghosts. It's kind of crazy to remember everything that happened in this room.
That's a good segue into my first question.
Yeah. Yes.
I wanted to know more about what Mary was talking about, your experience here at this library, because they often shape readers long before they become writers. And so what did libraries mean to you when you were growing up? What did this library mean to you? And was there like a particular librarian or an experience here in this library?
Bonnie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Bonnie. She was childhood was this library.
Yeah.
My mother, who's right here, would take us to the library every Saturday, and we would go to the new books table, and we would hull, what we could. And 1 week, right, for the new books, otherwise you get charged. So we would do this every week, and we had, so long as my mother found her books in the adult section, and when she was done, then we would have to go. So we had to haul, And it was such a formative experience for me, just coming to the library, being part of the movies. They would show movies here, and this is why there's ghosts here, because I learned about so many things watching those documentaries up there, sitting on the floor, cross-legged. It's just, wow, it's bringing back so many memories. I did the summer reading program. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I remember it from last summer.
Oh, they were so fun. Did you give book reports too? I mean, that was a big part of our summers. We're giving book reports.
I didn't give book reports. Now I give out ice cream.
Okay, well, that's fun too. Yeah, and then we went from giving book reports and doing all the summer parties. That used to be a closet right there. And we'd have like scary things in the closet, kind of exciting things in the closet. And then we volunteered at the library when we were too old for the summer reading club, which was not as fun, but it was still fun, just being part of the madness. I won my first bookmark contest, which I brought a picture of. So I happened to find this the other day, and here it is. There it is. And there I am. And that was my bookmark. Though I have a confession, my mom actually helped me with that bookmark.
And now that photo is probably...
Do you remember that?
It's probably right where we're sitting, right? Because
Yes.
that's...
The patio, yes. Yes.
Amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
That
I
is
just
crazy.
happened to find that recently, and I was like, oh, I should bring this to the Whittier Public Library to
Oh,
see.
Is that a rebus?
A rebus? What's
Like
that?
like a picture?
Oh yeah, it's a
Right.
pictogram thing.
Yeah. Oh,
Is that what you call it?
I think it's called a rebus, right?
Oh,
It's
okay. I just
books.
learned a new word.
Books.
Yeah.
Oh, would you like to?
Pictogram. Books.
Uh-huh.
Someone solve it.
Well, a rebus.
Sunshine.
Rebus is the right word for it.
Books bring the sunshine in. Exactly. And I don't know why I photographed it upside down. Sorry about that. Just to make it a little more confusing. Yeah.
So
So
cool.
it was really exciting that that book, Mark, was given out, and I was very proud of it. But my mom did have a hand in that. Right? Another thing that I was just talking to Mary about, we were talking about connections to the Whittier Library, and I just remembered that it was here at the Whittier Library that I first looked up literary agents.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was like 13. And
You went to the
yeah.
reference desk and looked
I
at
went to the reference desk, I asked for the Writer's Digest, and I would come back and ask for it, and I would use the Xerox machine, and I would make copies, yes, exactly, and then circle, and it was so important, you know, in so many aspects of my life, this library.
Yeah.
So thank you for keeping it up, and I just love being here, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this is good history, and that's a nice segue into my next question, which is, you know, if you're not familiar with Stacey's books, you can look at the centerpieces there, and she does historical fiction.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know sort of what drew you first to historical fiction, and maybe if you could talk a little bit about some of the things that historical fiction allows for, and then maybe some of the challenges.
Sure. So I was actually not the world's best history student, but I imagine you might be.
I mean, when you're talking about libraries, my experience as a kid was like facts. And there's a reason for that that we won't go into, but yeah, I was all about like getting as much history as I could,
Yeah.
including books about ghosts.
And so you enjoyed it. Sounds
yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
you, no, not so much.
not so much. I didn't like history. I would fall asleep in history. Shout out to Miss Primrose. She really tried, but it was all wars and dates,
Yeah.
and it just didn't sink in. And really, if you had asked me back then, would I be a historical fiction writer? I would have laughed. Really, I would never have expected that I would do this
Right.
for a living. Maybe writing books, yes, but historical fiction, not so much. So, anyways, I think what fascinates me about history is its ability to add pressure to stories, and that's what I use the history for. So I really like having a character, usually a female character, and putting her in trouble,
Right.
dropping her into like a period of time where she could, and watching her struggle, whether that be the wild frontier or Jim Crow South or a sinking ship. So I really enjoy seeing that. Luck of the Titanic, yes. No spoilers alert there.
Yeah,
So
I understand it doesn't work out for the ship.
it doesn't work out for the ship. No.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to read it to find
I have
out.
to cancel my reservation.
I think I focus on the story, and then the history just adds the pressure points. And history and the rules are important in so much as they add pressure and raise the stakes for a story. So, for example, Under a Painted Sky, which you're holding there, it would have been unthinkable for a girl to head down the Oregon Trail by herself. So when she is faced with that decision, it charges that decision even more. So I like to find the places where history can make it a little harder for my heroines.
Yeah. When you start, do you have the situation in mind? Like, how do you light upon these? Because your books are, to your point, you set them in sort of wildly different settings, right?
Yeah.
From the frontier to the Titanic.
Yes.
Now the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah.
So how does
How do
that
I
work?
do that? I think, well, now that I've been writing for a while, people drop things in my ear, especially my in-laws. Yeah, I have my in-laws to thank for the downstairs girl idea and Luck of the Titanic, actually. So I always have my ears open to interesting tidbits about life in the U.S. And I think that's pretty much how I do it. I do also look at the map and think, oh, what area of the United States haven't I worked in yet? And what do I want to find a story in? I usually start with the heroine and I find, oh, I really want to write a story about a girl who is a rags to riches kind of story. Yeah. And then I'll find the right setting. And oftentimes those things converge. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the heroine comes first. Right. Sometimes the larger thematic question, that usually doesn't come first. It's usually the personal story. But I will be thinking in terms of the setting, the character, the history, and what are the thematic issues. That all arrives kind of at the same time. Okay. I would say with the personal story arriving first.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is, I mean, you said as a kid, history wasn't that great. So now what is your what is your research process look like? Because, for example, in Under a Painted Sky, there's lots of good history. And I was as a trivia guy and a history guy, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. But also, learning things we were talking before, Bermuda, oh yeah, that's an interesting
thing. Right.
So what does your research process look like for these books?
Okay, so first I need to mention that my dad, who's sitting here, he loves history. I was not a good history student, but my dad loves history, and actually his favorite book was on cement.
Okay.
Yeah, and how that, builds. Yeah. You do?
Yeah.
You know that one.
I can't talk about the title, but yeah, cement is very important.
Very important to building civilization.
They lost the recipe for concrete for a long, long time, and they got it back again.
Dad could tell you, probably, yeah. So I guess it's maybe in my blood a little bit, this interest in history. Yeah. But sorry, what question did you ask me again?
How do you decide which of those historical tidbits get in there, and what stays in your notes, and what how do you decide what to put in there?
So when I start my research, I have to start with a map. Oftentimes I don't know my area very well, especially 100 years ago. So I try to find a map as close in time as I'm writing the story, and understanding that the story date, I have to nail down that particular date almost to the day. To understand what's going on in the country on that particular day in that particular area. So I will look for a map first to ground me. There weren't a lot of, we didn't have the Google Maps, right? So we had to rely often on the bird's eye map, which maybe you know what the bird's eye map. No, those are maps done by hand there were like 5 guys who were really good at this back then, and you would have to go to a hill and with your sketch pad, and that means that you have to choose a city near a hill, right? In order to, so those cities that were near hills or maybe big trees, I don't think a tree would do it, a hill, would be the ones that were most often copied and made maps of. So you'd find that, and then I'd place where my character was in that geographical location. And then after I figured that out, I use a magnifying glass for sure. Yeah, and after I do that, for Titanic, I used the blueprint of the ship.
Oh, wow.
And that was it was as big as my dining table and still very tiny, so I had to use a magnifying glass for that for sure. I do like to read newspapers from the era about a year forward from my date and a year back, so I know what's going on in the city. That really helps me get comfortable with the jargon and what's important. For example, lamb gloves are 10 cents, and there were a lot of ads for that, so that was something the women really liked, things like this, right? Yeah. We wouldn't know that unless we read those newspapers. Right. Yeah, so I do that, and then if I'm lucky enough, I go visit an area, and I did that for Atlanta, for the Downstairs Girl. I wanted to visit one of those Titanic museum things, but that was during the pandemic when I was writing that. So I had to rely on a video game, actually. There's a video game of the Titanic, which helped me a lot. Yeah, that was interesting. Heiress of Nowhere, I was able to go to the Pacific Northwest, an area that is just gorgeous. Has anyone been to the Orcas Islands? Yes, it's just got this amazing otherworldly feeling to it. Foggy during the non-summer months, and during summer months it's just a jewel. Yeah, so it's sort of captured.
Yeah, I was
here.
gonna say they captured that pretty well then.
Yeah, so I was able to go there. I did a lot of talking to people. I'm actually super introverted, so it's hard for me to talk to people. I know you don't believe that, but I totally am. And so getting myself out there, I mean, I think to myself, I have to psych myself up and say, okay, I got on the plane, I paid for the ticket, I'm here, I need to talk to people. So I go out, and I was standing on a dock for Orcas Island, and I was watching a woman docking a boat, and I was trying to understand how all these boats work and how they're parked. That's what I was trying to understand that particular day. And I also needed to understand a lot about the natural flora and fauna of Orcas Island, because Lucy, the main character, is a research assistant. She's a scientist, and the flora and fauna is so important to the story. There's a particular bird that I was curious about called the marbled murrelet. Does anybody know that bird? Oh, yes, you do. Oh, because you're the one who went to Orcas Island. Okay, yes, it's this amazing bird that disappears during the breeding months, and nobody knows where it goes. It's a seabird. I think it was a woman who discovered in the 50s that it actually goes super inland, like miles inland, and finds the tallest fir tree it can find and roosts at the very top. We're talking like 200 feet up, right? And it lays a single egg. And so it's just this fascinating hidden bird. And it becomes a symbol for Lucy, who is sort of hidden as well. And this bird, the murrelet, is a bird of the sea and the land. And that leaves us with the question where Lucy is from. Lucy's always trying to figure out what is her origins. So when I was seeing the stock worker who I thought was just like a boat worker, I was talking to her and I asked her if she had seen any marbled murrelets. She said, I did my PhD dissertation on marbled murrelets, which is crazy and why you need to talk to people. So then we spent a good hour or 2 hours there talking about marbled murrelets, and it was just amazing. I had to include those details. But yeah, I think they make it into the page when they're necessary and when I can sort of use the details to paint the scene. Yeah.
Very cool. We were talking before, I recently reread, or I should say re-listened to Under a Painted Sky. And I was really struck by just like the narrative momentum of the book. And so I wanted to know sort of how you balance the history stuff with, with the plot setting. It seems like it'd be really easy with historical fiction to get bogged down in the historical details, but Under a Painted Sky, Downstairs Girl, they feel really fresh and you keep moving and so
yeah, sure. I really appreciate that. The answer is not very sexy. It's just a matter of I get the story down, I get the main plot down. That's the hardest part usually. And then I go back and I layer, and I just keep going back and I layer more and I layer more. And one of the last things I work on is the voice, and which I never thought would be the case. I mean, I thought when you read a book that sometimes the voice is so immediate that you think, oh, that's got to be something you start with at the beginning. Well, not always. Sometimes you don't really understand who your character is until you finish writing the book. And then you can go back and then you can refine the voice.
Right.
Yeah. And
speaking of voices, I can highly recommend, we were talking again about the narrator for Under a Painted Sky and Downstairs Girl, Emily Zeller.
Yes.
She's so great.
She's great.
Could you talk about how the process when you're a writer and you have to do an audiobook? Yeah. You're involved in that process, aren't you?
A little. And actually, does anyone listen to audiobooks here? Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, it used to be just a few people, right? And now they're becoming so much more popular. I love audiobooks personally. I think narrators can bring something special to the story that I hadn't thought of. So now when I'm writing, I do think about the narrator when I'm writing, and I think, okay, I really want to do a Polynesian kind of voice, or I would, I'm thinking about adding color to the story by the audio. I get to choose out of a handful of narrators. They'll whittle it down, and the narrators will present like a chapter, and then I will listen and decide what sounds closest to the characters I want, or who's good at this accent, and that's how I do it. With Emily, though, she's amazing, right? She does voice yoga.
I was going to say, she not only, what's great about Downstairs Girl is that she affects this Southern accent. You mentioned that she's from the South,
yes.
So it's probably a little easier for her. But the other thing she does is she does the characters in different voices, and she's really good at it.
I love that. And that's one thing I noticed in that young adult fiction, when you listen to the narrators, they really try to put the extra sauce on it and to give the different, do the voices, which I love. Yeah. I don't like a flat reading. I like the extra acting going into the audiobooks.
Yeah, I think for those of us who know audiobooks and who've listened to enough of them, a bad narrator can really mess things up.
Yes, absolutely.
And a good one can just make all the difference.
Right, yeah. And it's a astute reader who can understand that it's the narrator, and maybe I'll try the hard copy and see how that goes. Yeah.
Exactly. That's how I ended up reading a Patrick O'Brien book whose narrator just wasn't good. But the book was great.
That happens, yeah.
So what can you share with us about Heirs of Nowhere? And what felt...
Sure.
What was exciting or challenging about this?
So this one, I spent a lot of my 20s in the Pacific Northwest, and I just was always struck by the beauty of the place. It has this edge of the world feeling to it. Yeah. And when I always thought, I need to write a book in this area just because there's so much environment. There's just so much atmosphere and just feeling here. So when it came time to write my next book, I thought, this is the time to write something in the Pacific Northwest. And as I was thinking about the atmosphere and all the the feel of the place, I thought, okay, what this place needs is a good murder mystery, a good Gothic murder mystery. Actually, I wasn't thinking about Gothic. I knew I had a vision in my head of a young girl, not young, but she's 18 actually, a young woman strolling along the beach and coming upon her employer's remains, her very wealthy employer's remains. She's someone who doesn't know where she's from, and she arrived on the island as a baby in a canoe. And so I thought to myself, maybe there's a story here. I started talking about it with my agent, and my agent said, it sounds like you're writing a Gothic. And I was like, no, I'm not writing a Gothic. I'm not a Gothic writer. Just like I didn't really read a lot of Gothic books, and I thought, no, that's not me. But she's like, yes, you are. You have like a windswept island. You have fog. You have murder mystery. You have a house, a mansion. You're writing a Gothic, and so I just had to sort of embrace that, and I think that's how that developed. She's given the estate. She's the sole heir of the estate, the shipping estate, and she has to figure out who the murderer is before fingers point at her, as well as, or before she becomes the target. So that's what drives the plot, I would say. But yeah, it's also about a young woman stepping into power and to find a place for herself, find connection for herself amongst the islanders who really never accepted her as one of their own. Yeah.
And this isn't the first, in addition to different historical settings, this is not the first time that within the larger genre of historical fiction, you've focused in on specific genres. So Under a Painted Sky is a Western. The next book I want to read is Kill Her Twice, which is sort of a 30s noir kind of situation. Yeah. So tell us about writing a Gothic novel and whether that, how that changed your process, if at all, especially in terms of world building and suspense and writing a mystery.
Yeah, well, I would definitely say that with a Gothic, the setting becomes ever important. I mean, it is important, but it becomes like almost another character. Right. And so when you ever visit, if you've ever visited that part of the world, the San Juan Islands, the thick forests, they're so beautiful and they're so lush. But at the same time, you can get lost in them very easily, right? And so there's this push and pull of all the elements there on the island. So I think that becomes even more important, the atmosphere in a Gothic book. And that's something I had to learn, and I had to lean into, and I had to treat as its own character that's changing and ever developing, and Lucy making peace with it or not making peace with it, and trying to understand where her larger place is on the island. Yeah.
What do you, when you're writing, or maybe when you're not writing, what do you hope that readers, and maybe especially young adult readers, are taking away from these books about history, about the world, about the U.S., about themselves? Is that something that pops up as you're writing, or is it sort of maybe afterwards?
Well, something I notice about all my books is that they all talk about the importance of connection and belonging. And that's a question that my local Bay Area writers group, we're always asking ourselves that. What are you constantly returning to? And for me, I'm always constantly returning to this idea of a connection, or where we belong and how we belong into the world. So for Lucy, for example, she is someone that has been sort of rejected from the island, and suddenly she's now in charge of everybody. And there's this idea in the book, the mycelium network. Have you heard of that?
Is that the fungus?
Yes, underground. If you've ever seen the Blue People Avatar movie, there's like an underground network of roots that connects the forest and nourishes it. So as a research assistant, Lucy is familiar with this concept of a mycelium network, but she doesn't realize how connected she is until later. That's something she's learning. So this idea of connectivity is something that I'm always returning to, and that we are larger of a greater plan, and that we are part of a larger plan, and that it's important for us to connect, and that is the meaning of life, connecting with people.
And that's certainly a theme in Under a Painted Sky, right? Is that they can't do it by themselves. They have to rely on each other. It's so
absolutely.
great.
Yes.
So this is a membership appreciation dinner tonight, of course, and since we're here tonight celebrating you, but also celebrating library supporters, I wanted to know what you'd say to the folks who help sustain libraries and make these libraries possible for future readers and future writers.
Yes, well, I mean, libraries, first of all, thank you. Second of all, libraries are where you immediately belong. You step in the door. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to prove anything. You just belong. And so when you are contributing money to a library, you are keeping those doors open, and you're allowing for that access to happen, especially in a time like this when we see so many book bans and we see so much controversy over, and access is closing to books. So when you're contributing to libraries, it is really an active revolution nowadays. So thank you for keeping those doors open. I mean, you don't know what kid is going to walk through the doors and is quietly building a future.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So nice. I would like to open it up. Does anybody have any questions for Stacey? Many questions. I'm gonna go.
I wondered if, because it sounds like when you choose the book and the character, it helps almost select the genre, like the subgenre of the book. Does that impact the way you decide to write the book in terms of like starting, opening scenes, and stuff like that? I'm also a writer, so I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, I don't think it changes how I write it. I'm always worried about things like pacing. And so whatever genre I choose, I want to make sure that it's pacey. And I think that's especially important for young adult fiction, whereas with adult fiction, there's a lot more room to sort of think about things and reflect on things and think about what I could have done or what I should have done. There's a lot more of that. With young adult fiction, it goes, the story gallops along, it should. And so I think I'm more concerned with those issues than I am about how a genre might affect. Yeah, I think I do it pretty much the same, regardless of the genre. What do you write?
I'm a journalist mostly. I write a little bit of screenplays, and
Nice.
I wrote one kid's book. But
Awesome. Amazing. Yeah, it's fun when you're a writer. Then you can do many different.
Yeah, for
Thanks.
sure.
Yeah.
I just wondered if there's like tumbleweeds in a Western, like at the beginning.
Oh, are there tumbleweeds? There was a tumbleweed in Under Midnight Sky.
Okay.
Yeah, there are pieces in particular. This for
Okay,
sure.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. A
cool.
desolate scene,
Yeah.
landscapes. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm very excited to. I just followed what your book's on. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
From conception to the end, how long does it normally take you? And once you're done with one book, do you already have an idea for the following book?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, from concept to completion of like rough draft, I would say probably a good year or two. It takes about 6 months to do the research, actually, and that's kind of a rule that I set because if I spend longer than that, it just I can get lost in those research holes very easily. And then I give myself permission to go. So about a year to a year and a half to nail down the first draft. And then, of course, it goes back and forth from my editor to me. There's usually 4 passes if things are tricky. The Downstairs Girl took a good 4 or 5 passes to get right. So I guess it depends on my second book, Outrun the Moon, that took me 6 months to write. And I think it was so quick because I was familiar with the setting of San Francisco. That's the one about the 1906 earthquake, San Francisco earthquake, and a girl who is impersonating an heiress so she can get into a Tony white girls' school, privileged school, and then the earthquake happens. So that one took 6 months simply because I was more familiar with San Francisco. My mother is from San Francisco, and we have a lot of relatives there, so that one was quicker to write. But this one took almost over 2 years, actually. This one, it was pretty dense to just figure out. When you're writing a murder mystery, I think that adds a little bit of complexity because you're always, there's a lot of plot lines to keep track of. And so now that I've written 2 murder mysteries, I would say that might take me a little longer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any books that you've done that are, because I haven't read a lot of your books, that are either biographical in some ways or at least on family history, using family history?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that all of my books contain maybe seeds of some of my experiences, nothing directly about my my family's experience. Maybe Outrun the Moon has the character, Mercy Wong is the main character, and she's probably very similar to my mother. My mother grew up walking up and down the hills of San Francisco in heels, she tells me. So, yeah, so her spunk and her spirit. My mom is not in the room. She went out to take care of some book stuff, I think. Oh, hi, Mom. Do you own that, Mom? Do you think you are part of that? If you are Mercy Wong, sort of? Okay, well. Yes, over there.
So when you give your book to the editor, do you always agree with his changes or you stick to your own guide?
That's a great question. Do I always agree with my editor's changes? No, I usually do. There can be an issue. If there is an issue, we'll talk about what she's thinking and what I'm thinking. I would say most of the time we come to an agreement. Yeah, and I've had several editors. The editors in New York, it's a job that there's a lot of turnover because a lot of the editors are young women in their 20s and 30s, and when they start having families, unfortunately, that publishing has not allowed for, not that it hasn't allowed, but you really have to be there, and so they choose that it's just too much to, handle, unfortunately. Yeah, so I have been through several editors, and I would say most of them are understanding when we come to agreement. If there's something that I feel strongly about, they always defer to the author. That's been my experience so far. And so I'm lucky that way. This newest editor is just wonderful. She started her own imprint, Sarah Barley Books. She used to be at Macmillan, and she left because she was offered her own imprint, which is like a subsidiary of a publishing company. And so this is the third book on her list. It just started this year. Yeah, and she is incredible. Yes. Yes, this one.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you always like to take a woman and plop her into a different situation historically.
Oh, yes.
And with challenges,
Mm,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering about your motivation about that. Like, do you like to see how women overcame challenges during historical times? Or
Yeah, I think I really like dealing or using young women as my main character because of who I am, and having a main character who is a teenager, you're dealing with so many firsts, and you're dealing with so many struggles of just the first time you're doing things and being independent, the first time you're driving a car, for example, first time you're having to get a job. All these firsts are very interesting to me, and very everyone can remember those experiences, right? And so I like to put her in a historical setting because I like the mirror of what's going on in the world to reflect what she's going through personally. So the more I can have those two things intersect, the more interesting I think a story becomes to me to write. Yeah. Yes.
Who are you reading these days?
Oh gosh, who am I reading? I just finished The Correspondent. Has anyone read that? So good. I loved it. And then it reminded me, because it references a lot of books in the book, a lot of favorite books actually that I've read. Never Let Me Go was one of my favorite books I read last year. It just wounded me. And then I had read Lonesome Dove in my youth, and it refers to Lonesome Dove, and so I read it as a hardback. Now there's an audiobook, so I decided to listen to that, and there's a Bermuda mic. And so it's been a joy to get back to the Western, and hearing that voice again makes me want to write a Western again. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So much has been said about AI. How does it help you with ideas, and how do you protect yourself?
That's such a great question and a hard issue for us now. AI. Does anybody know about the Anthropic lawsuit?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So many of us authors were affected by that and had our work stolen by Anthropic between the years of 2021 and 2025. Any book. There are, I think they stole maybe 4 of my books. Yeah, uploaded it. And so now it's nothing we can do about. But there's been a settlement. And yet, there's something about just asking permission maybe, and, not stealing would be nice. I definitely feel that things like mapping certain areas, that's very helpful in AI. So I can see that people need to sort of embrace this. There's no going back from AI. And we can use it, but use it responsibly. I know the rules are changing so quickly that it's hard to keep up. And, I was a lawyer for 10 years, and I know that the law always moves super slow when it comes to things. So I don't know. I think we just hang on to our hats and let the people with the big brains figure that out, hopefully. But as far as my life, I've definitely seen a lot of writers turn to it for the logistical side of helping to see maps and helping to see things that maybe were a little harder to find. I would often go to the LA Central Library, which has, forget the name of those maps. The gas maps, what are those called?
There's a term for them.
Yeah, they have a big collection in the LA Library, and yeah, they were great maps. It was the gas company that mapped out certain parts of LA, very detailed, like they put soda shop or they put printing shop. And LA Library has an awesome collection. So I would do the groundwork of, driving up there and looking through the archives. So maybe they're a little more accessible now. And you can do that in the comfort of your home. So there are practical uses for it too. Yeah.
Can you say anything about your books that are banned?
Oh.
We're gonna end on that note. Okay.
Yeah, Mom, gotta bring that up.
You can turn it around.
Well, yes, I unfortunately there are book bans going on around the country, which is pretty horrific. 90% of them affect children's books. Yeah, and most of them about people of color. That's just how it is. My books have been targeted for sure, yeah, and most of the time by people who haven't even read them. You know, they just see a Chinese girl being centered in the South. The Downstairs Girl was a hugely banned one, and that changed. I mean, there's no sex, drugs, or rock and roll in my stories. There's nothing pornographic at all. It's just a story, and unfortunately, there's people who just want to see that access denied, and this is what I was talking about, access. So as library people, we need to keep sharing books, keep making them accessible to people. I think it's really tragic and awful to see librarians prosecuted for offering books, and that is a struggle that I just feel so deeply and horribly for. These are people bringing light into the world and enlightenment, and so we have to keep protecting them and keep protecting kids and their access to stories, because there's one thing I agree with people who ban books is that a book can change a person's heart. I definitely feel that. We both feel that. That's why they want to close access to books. They don't want to show, other stories, and I think that's very sad for me. So, support banned books. Actually, I have one more thing to say about that. Now that you brought up banned books, it was Bonnie who showed me the Diary of Anne Frank.
Yeah, banned.
Banned. Yeah, she's the one who showed me so many books that are banned. Judy Blume books, banned. Yeah.
Well, please join me in thanking Stacey for being so generous.
Stacey, this is a true honor for us to have you with us tonight. We can't thank you enough. Thank you for taking the time. A very, very special evening for all of us. Thank you. And if you have your book and you would like it autographed, please come over to the table. We have more books. And
there's a special fabric store in Sunnyvale, California, where this lady decided that she found all these fabrics in the garbage can. And they were furniture store samples, and they're perfectly great, beautiful fabrics. And she and her husband decided to quit their jobs and just offer them to the general public for like 10 cents each, like super cheap. It was just her way of trying to save the environment and reclaim fabrics. So she opened a cute little store. It's a warehouse open twice a month, and everything is still 50 cents or not. It's a nonprofit now, and it was featured in the Mercury News, which is our local newspaper. So during the pandemic it was shut down, but after that we started going there, and we started making book sleeves, which are these book sleeves. You can bring your books around, and we found all sorts of uses for them since then. We've refined the pattern over the years. We've made over 1,000, and we've found that they fit hot water bottles perfectly, as well as iPad sleeves and slippers, and so many uses we found over the years. So we made them for my book launch on March 17th up in the Bay Area, but I brought down a whole bunch to give to you with this book. So.